What happens when a CEO trades his corner office for a rusted delivery van no one wants to drive? Colton Pierce leaned against his black pickup truck, parked across the street from store 12 of his delivery chain, one of 14 he'd bought 7 years ago from a retiring family owner. Back then, the business had been on the edge of collapse. Now it was profitable, but something felt off lately. Delivery times were slipping. Customer complaints were piling up, packages left in the wrong spots, drivers missing their routes, vans breaking down on deliveries. He'd asked for answers. District managers gave him rehearsed reports. Store managers blamed bad hires and high turnover. But Colton wasn't buying it anymore. He wanted the truth, and not from behind a desk. So here he was. New haircut, faded jeans, a gray hoodie. He'd shaved his beard, added fake tattoos on his forearms, and threw on a ball cap low over his eyes. His name tag read Derek. His background? Transferred from a closed location upstate. Nobody at this store had met him before. It was a corporate chain set up, different faces in every store, and most folks had never seen the owner in person. He walked through the back entrance just before dawn, the smell of motor oil and stale coffee hitting him as he stepped into the break room.
Hey.
You the new guy? Asked a woman in her 30s, tall, dark hair in a low ponytail, steel blue eyes locked on him. I'm Lena Cross, team lead for early shift. Orientation's 5 minutes late, but honestly, you're better off skipping it. Colton raised an eyebrow. Skipping it? She shrugged. It's the same safety video on loop. No one watches it. Just stick with me, I'll show you the ropes. He nodded slowly. All right. Lena moved quick, rattling off instructions as she led him through the garage. These are the vans. You'll pick one from the ready lot. We do pickups from warehouse at 6, then start the morning route. If your van's low on gas, grab a receipt at the pump, don't forget, or they'll dock your pay. Oh, and don't stress about the inspection sheet. Nobody does those anymore. Colton stopped walking.
Wait.
What do you mean? Nobody does those? Lena glanced back at him, annoyed. Look, technically we're supposed to check the tires, lights, brakes, whatever. But we're short on time, and half the vans have issues anyway. You just learn which ones to avoid. Colton kept his face neutral. You ever report the bad vans? She let out a laugh. Who's got time? We've got 6 people running a 10-person schedule. You either roll, or you get written up for being late. He didn't say anything else, just nodded and followed her out to the lot. His stomach turned as he looked over the vehicles. 2 had cracked windshields, one had a flat rear tire, another was leaking something under the engine. He picked the least worst one and climbed in. The inside smelled like sweat and fast food. The brake pedal felt loose. He wrote it down on the inspection sheet anyway, even though Lena told him to toss it. By 8, they were already behind schedule. At a stop in the suburbs, Colton watched as another driver kid named Jace slammed the van door and jogged toward a porch. He tripped over a loose step, box flying into the bushes. He cursed, grabbed it, and rang the bell. Back in the van, Colton asked, That happen often? Jace shrugged. We're flying blind most of the time. Routes change last second. No one updates the GPS. Half the time, management just tells us to figure it out. You get used to it. Colton frowned. You ever bring up the issues? Jace gave him a sideways glance. To who? Lena? She'll just say we gotta move faster. The district guy only shows up once a month. And when he does, all he cares about is numbers. They finished the route late. Colton's back ached. His hands were black with grease from a busted latch on the van. When they returned to the store, Lena barely looked up.
You're slow, Derek, she said.
You'll need to pick up the pace, or you won't last. He nodded and walked past her into the break room. A younger woman with short curls sat at the table, peeling the label off a water bottle. She looked up and smiled. You're new, right?
I'm Kieta.
You okay? You look wiped. I'm good, he said. Just getting used to it. She leaned closer. Don't let Lena get to you.
She's
Burned out, I think. But she's not all bad. Just tired of covering for a broken system. Colton gave a slow, tired smile. That makes two of us. He left the building that night with his mind spinning. These weren't just small issues. They were dangerous. No inspections, broken vans, poor training, and a culture of silence. Someone was going to get hurt. And he was done watching from the sidelines. Tomorrow he was going to push harder. Ask questions no one wanted to answer. And find out just how deep this went. By the second morning, Colton had already learned to arrive earlier than everyone else just to get a van that wasn't a safety hazard. The lot was still dark, the only sound the buzz of a faulty street lamp overhead. He walked the rows in silence, flashlight in hand, logging what he saw into a small notebook he kept hidden in his coat pocket. Tire treads worn unevenly, expired registration stickers, a side door that wouldn't latch unless you slammed it shut 3 times. No one else seemed to care. Or maybe they'd just given up. As the sun crept up behind the warehouse, more of the crew filtered in. Most of them looked like they hadn't slept properly in days. One guy limped up the ramp, favoring his right foot. Another scratched at the fading red lines from his delivery vest that had dug into his shoulder. Inside the loading bay, Colton grabbed his manifest from the printer and made his way to the back. He found Jace again, standing by the bins, retaping a crushed parcel with strips of clear film. "Morning," Colton said. Jace didn't look up. "This one got soaked overnight. Roof leaks above bin 3. Management knows. Nothing gets fixed unless corporate threatens inspections." Colton crouched beside him. "How long's that been going on?" "Since before I started." "You learned to rotate the bins around the leak. Or tape fast." Before Colton could respond, Lena's voice echoed across the bay.
Derek.
"You've got the Ridgeview loop today. Biggest one. Don't be late." Colton stood slowly. "No problem." She didn't wait for a reply, just turned and walked back toward the office. Her pace was sharp, but her eyes looked heavy. There were deep creases at the corners now, ones he hadn't noticed the day before. He loaded his van mostly in silence, save for Kira, who brought over a few stray packages and asked if he needed help stacking the shelves. "I'm good," he said, then paused. "How long you been here?" 6 months. Long enough to know not to drink the break room coffee. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. He hesitated. "Ever had a route reassigned midday?" "All the time. Lena calls it on-the-fly optimization. Usually just means someone quits or calls out, and the rest of us get to pick up the slack." Colton locked his doors and climbed inside. The dashboard flashed 2 warning lights, one for low tire pressure, another for a faulty sensor. He noted both in his book. By late morning, the Ridgeview route had already thrown 3 detours at him. The GPS rerouted him through a construction area, then froze entirely near a closed bridge. A call to the store rang 6 times before someone picked up. "This is dispatch," said a bored male voice. "This is Derek. I'm on Ridgeview, and the bridge is out. GPS isn't updating."
Yeah.
"That's been flagged. You're supposed to take Orchard Lane around, but it's not on the route sheet yet. Just figure it out." The line went dead. Colton stared at the phone, then dropped it onto the seat beside him. Just figure it out. He rerouted himself manually and finished the loop an hour behind. The last house was up a steep gravel hill, barely wide enough for the van. As he climbed, the brakes squealed louder than they had all morning. When he reached the top, he parked and leaned back, exhaling through clenched teeth. An elderly woman opened the door before he could even knock. "You're late," she said. "This was supposed to be here by 10. "I'm sorry, ma'am. There were changes on the route." "Well, I needed this for my medication. I've been waiting all morning." He stepped back. "I understand. I'll make sure they know." She didn't answer, just took the box and shut the door quietly. Back at the store, The atmosphere had changed. Two vans were parked lopsided near the entrance, one with smoke rising from the hood. A young woman with her hair in a tight braid stood beside it, arms crossed, jaw tight. Colton approached slowly. "Everything okay?" She didn't look at him. The brakes gave out coming down Forest Hill. "I almost hit a cyclist." He frowned. "Did you report the van before?"
Twice.
"Last week and the week before." They said it was not critical. She walked past him and into the building.
He followed.
Inside, the air was thick. Tension clung to the walls. Two drivers argued near the lockers, voices low but sharp. Colton stepped into the break room and found Lena standing by the sink, staring into her coffee cup. He spoke quietly. "One of the vans nearly caused an accident." She didn't look at him. "I know. You knew it had brake issues. I logged it to maintenance. They closed the ticket. Said it was cleared." Colton glanced around. No one else was listening. "Why didn't you pull it from the fleet?" "Because if I pull it, I have no backup. Then I've got one less driver, and the rest fall behind. You want to know what happens when we fall behind? We get fined. Bonuses get pulled. Hours get cut." He stepped closer. "Is that why safety checks aren't enforced?" She finally met his eyes. "I'm not proud of it, but I don't have the people or the time. You want to talk solutions, fine. But don't come at me like you're above it all." "I'm not above it," he said quietly. "I'm in it." She stared at him for a long moment, then walked out without another word. Later that afternoon, Colton watched from a quiet corner of the lot as the district manager arrived. He was in his 40s, stocky, wearing polished shoes that didn't belong in any loading bay. He barked something at Lena, who nodded and followed him into the office. 20 minutes later, she came out with her jaw set and her hands clenched. Colton approached slowly. "Everything all right?" He said, "We're being audited next week. And that if our numbers aren't back up by then, I'm out." "Did you tell him about the van?" "He told me to stop making excuses." That night, Colton sat alone in a diner down the road. His notebook lay open on the table in front of him. Every page was filled.
Un chafavehicles.
Unattended repairs. Unreasonable expectations. A team stretched beyond capacity, with no support from above. He flipped to a new page and wrote one word at the top: Monday. That's when he'd end it.
The act.
The name tag. The silence. Because what he'd seen wasn't just inefficiency anymore. It was negligence. And it would stop. Monday came cloaked in gray. Low clouds pressed against the horizon as Colton parked 3 blocks from the store and walked in through the back entrance like he had all week. His hoodie was damp from the drizzle, boots caked with mud from the shortcut through the alley. But none of that mattered anymore. This was the last day he'd be invisible. He moved quickly past the break room, ignoring the usual murmurs and dragging feet, and stepped into the loading bay. The air was thick with diesel and tension. 2 drivers were arguing over who'd taken which manifest. A third was trying to jumpstart a van with cables that sparked against the wet concrete. The noise, the chaos, the where all of it pressing against the edges of something he could no longer contain.
"Derek."
Lena's voice cut through the din. "You're on the Southmore Loop. Manifests on the rack." Colton didn't answer. Instead, he crossed the room and climbed onto a crate beside the main dispatch board. The sudden height drew eyes. Conversations paused. "I need everyone's attention." Murmurs flickered through the group. Lena straightened. "What are you doing?" "I'm not Derek." He pulled off the hat. "My name is Colton Pierce. I own this company." Silence fell like a dropped hammer. Jace stepped back. Kira's water bottle slipped from her hand and rolled across the floor. Someone in the back cursed under their breath. Lena's face went still. "I've spent the past week working your shifts, driving your routes, sitting in your broken vans. I've seen the ignored safety issues, the rerouted deliveries, the way drivers are stretched past their limits. I watched a van nearly fail on a hill while carrying packages to homes with children. And I've seen the way no one listens when you speak up. He turned toward the district manager, who had just walked in carrying a tablet and barely registered what was happening. Max, the man froze. Sir, I want you in the office.
Now.
Max blinked, glanced at Lena, then followed Colton into the back office. The door shut with a quiet click. Colton didn't sit. You've been district manager here for what, 2 years? Yes, sir. A little over. You approved maintenance dismissals. You let vans go out with documented safety issues. You ignored staffing shortages and blamed Lena while demanding faster numbers. Max adjusted his collar. With all due respect, I followed standard policy. We have limited budget flexibility. We prioritize high-risk issues. Brakes failing is high risk. That was marked as resolved. Maintenance closed the ticket. And you never followed up. Never asked why the same van kept being logged. Never questioned why your team lead was working double shifts. Give me one reason why I shouldn't remove you from this position immediately. Max opened his mouth, then closed it. Colton didn't wait. You're done here. I'll have HR contact you by the end of the day. Hand over your keys and tablet. Max's face flushed, but he didn't argue. He placed the items on the desk and walked out without a word. Colton stepped back into the loading bay. Lena, can I speak with you? She walked toward him slowly, arms crossed, eyes guarded. They moved to a quieter corner by the inventory shelves. You lied, she said. I did. And you have every right to be furious.
She didn't respond.
I saw how hard you were pushing to keep things afloat, but I also saw you let safety slide. You let those vans out when you knew they weren't roadworthy. I didn't have a choice. You did, he said. Not an easy one.
But a choice.
From now on, if you're ever put in that position again, you pull the van. You delay delivery. I'll take the heat. But we don't gamble with people's lives. She looked away. Are you firing me?
No.
But I am relieving you from lead duties for now. You'll take a 2-week paid recovery period. After that, you'll return in a driver role. If you want to pursue leadership again later, we'll talk. But for now, I need you to rest. And I need to rebuild this team from the ground up. Lena nodded once, jaw tight, eyes unreadable. Then she turned and walked back to the break room without another word. Colton returned to the floor. The crew looked stunned. Some confused. Others like Kira and Jace watchful, cautious. He stepped up again. Max is gone. Effective immediately. I've appointed a temporary field director who'll be on site this afternoon. This station is going through a full audit, starting today. Every van will be inspected before another delivery leaves this lot. If it doesn't pass, it doesn't move. A man near the back called out. So what? We just sit around until they're fixed. If that's what it takes. Yes. Another driver raised a hand. Are we getting penalized for late packages?
No.
Not one of you will be written up or docked during this transition. I'll be covering the short-term losses personally. This is on me, not you. He turned toward Kira. You've been keeping things running behind the scenes. Helping others load, checking manifests when no one else does. I want you to step into the interim team lead position. If you're willing. She blinked. I don't have any management training. You've got common sense, situational awareness, and respect from your peers. I'll get you the rest. You in. After a long pause, she nodded once. Good, he said. We start fresh. Today. By mid-morning, 2 maintenance crews pulled into the lot. The vans were lined up for inspection, and drivers were rerouted to help clean, log, and support the process. No one was sent home, but no one was sent out either. Inside the office, Colton sat across from a woman in her 50s with silver streaks in her dark hair and a clipboard filled with repair orders. Her name was Marla, head of fleet compliance for the region. They've been running these things into the ground, she said flatly. We've got cracked brake hoses, misaligned axles, and 3 vans with tires below DOT minimums. How long to get them fixed? Depends. If we fast-track parts, we can return 4 to service by Thursday. The rest will take longer. You'll need to rent replacements. Do it, whatever it costs. She raised an eyebrow. You're serious? This is the cost of not paying attention. I'm not making the same mistake twice. Back on the floor, Kira had taken over dispatch. Her voice was calm but firm as she reassigned tasks and gave clear instructions. Jace and another driver organized the loading bay by route clusters, cutting down prep time by half. Even the older drivers, who had once kept to themselves, started asking questions, offering suggestions. Colton didn't leave the store that night until well after sunset. He stayed through the last inspection, walked the lot with the mechanics, and signed off on the temporary van rentals. As he finally stepped out into the cool night air, he paused by the exit. Kira caught up to him. You really meant all that, didn't you? He adjusted his jacket. Every word. I've worked a lot of jobs. Never met an owner who'd scrub out the back of a van with us. I should have done it sooner. She nodded, then looked out at the dark lot. I think we're going to be okay. He didn't say anything, just looked with her. Tomorrow would bring new problems. Delays. Hard conversations. But tonight, for the first time in a long while, the foundation felt solid. And that was enough. By Friday of the following week, the store looked different. Not polished or perfect, just different. The kind of different that comes from people no longer bracing for the day to go wrong. The smell of burnt oil still clung to the loading bay, and the walls still bore the scrapes and scuffs of years of wear, but there was motion now that felt deliberate. Calm even. A rhythm returning. Colton arrived just after 6, this time through the front door, wearing his usual blazer and boots. No more hoodie, no more cover story. A few heads turned, but no one stared. Most had heard by now, some from Kira, others from the regional bulletin that had gone out earlier that week confirming leadership changes and store repairs. Marla met him near the back with a clipboard in hand and a slight tilt to her head. 4 vans passed re-inspection. We've got 2 more coming online tomorrow. We're still short, but the rentals are holding. He nodded. Appreciate the extra hours you've put in. I haven't seen a CEO show up twice in 1 week at any of these stores in years. I figured I'd match the effort. They walked the perimeter of the lot, checking tire tags and noting minor issues for maintenance. A light drizzle had started to fall, but neither of them mentioned it. At the far end, Colton stopped near the van that had nearly failed on Forest Hill. Its paneling had been replaced, and the new brake system gleamed behind the wheel. Who's driving this one today?
Jace.
Requested it himself. Said if it's fixed, he wants to be the first to prove it. Colton let out a short breath. That's good. Inside the store, Kira stood behind the dispatch board, sorting printed manifests into 3 stacks. She moved quickly, efficiently, occasionally checking her watch. Her hair was tied up with a pencil stuck through the knot. Colton stepped up beside her. You settling in? She didn't pause. I'm still learning. Yesterday, I forgot to update the new route blockouts, and 2 drivers looped each other's stops. I fixed it, but it cost us 20 minutes. Not happening again. You've got the job if you want it full-time. She looked at him.
Ida.
But not if it means going back to how things were. It won't. You'll have authority to hold dispatch times when equipment isn't safe. No more overrides from above. She glanced at the clock. Then we're on track. First group rolls out in 5. A loud voice came from the break room doorway. I'm not doing another triple stack. I've done 5 straight days of cleanup runs, and now you want me to cover 2 zones again. Colton turned to see a driver mid-40s, goatee, thinning hair, standing with his arms outstretched. His name tag read Rhett. Kira stepped forward. Rhett, I reassigned the overflow because the backup we had called out. I need someone who knows the north side. Then hire someone who can handle it. I'm not your fill-in. You're not. But today, I need your help again. Just today.
Red scoffed.
You know why I get all the trash runs? Because I don't complain enough. You want to fix things? Start with who gets the decent routes. Colton stepped forward. Rhett. The man turned. What? Now the boss is assigning routes too?
No.
I'm asking if you think that attitude helps anything get better.
Rhett's face changed.
I've been here longer than most of these kids. I've watched 3 team leads come and go. You think I'm out of line for finally saying something? I think you're right to speak up. But there's a difference between speaking up and making someone else's job harder when they're trying to fix it. Rhett didn't respond. Just stared. Colton kept his voice even. You want a better route? Then help build the system we need to get there. 1 more week. That's all I'm asking. If you're still dealing with overflow after that, I'll reassign myself. Rhett's jaw twitched. Then he turned and walked to the bin without another word. Kira exhaled quietly. Thanks. He's burnt out. But we'll get him back if we do this right. The vans began pulling out, one by one, taillights glowing red through the mist. Colton stayed until the last one rolled past the gate, then headed into the storage office to meet with the 2 new hires who'd just completed orientation. Both were in their 20s, one, a former warehouse loader, the other just out of vocational school. They wore fresh uniforms, tags still crisp, and sat upright in plastic chairs like they weren't sure if this was an interview or a warning. Colton sat across from them. I'm not here to scare you. I just want to be clear about what kind of place you're joining. The taller of the 2 nodded. We heard a little about what happened. The vans and all. We're not hiding it. Things weren't where they should have been. But we're fixing them. And that means we expect more now. The second hire looked uncertain. More how? More attention. More accountability. If a van doesn't feel right, you don't drive it. If you see something wrong, you say something. That's not extra effort. That's the job. They nodded again, more confidently this time. After they left, Colton walked the shop floor once more. The mechanic crew had opened up 2 bays and were working through the midday diagnostics. A driver sat on the bench near the vending machine, eating a sandwich, his vest unzipped and face calm. The air didn't feel strained anymore, just focused. In the back office, Lena sat by the window, sorting paperwork into folders. Her clothes were casual, her posture relaxed but alert. She looked up as Colton entered. How's the new role treating you? I'm sleeping better, she said. Kira's good. Sharp. She'll do more than I ever did if you back her. I plan to. You ever want to come back in a lead role, the door's open. She shook her head. Not yet. I'm not ready to make decisions for other people again. But I'll drive. And I'll train. That's enough for now. He nodded. Fair. She hesitated. I never thanked you for not writing me off. I didn't build this company alone. I'm not going to fix it alone either. He left her to her work and stepped into the hallway, where Kira was flagging down a driver to double-check a return manifest. Her tone was clear, her directions exact. No one questioned her authority now, not because of her title, but because she proved, every hour, that she'd earned it. At the end of the day, Colton stood outside by the cracked sidewalk and looked out at the lot. The vans were still worn. The walls still needed paint. But the people were finally seen.
Heard.
Empowered. He pulled out his phone and opened a blank message to his executive team. All store managers rotate through at least 1 shift per quarter. No exceptions. I want eyes on the ground, not just numbers on a screen. He hit send, then tucked the phone away. The road ahead would be long. But this store, this team, they'd made the first turn. And now they were moving forward. Together.